Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where Marvel is managing to get a few extra headlines in before the tsunami of Suicide Squad coverage hits later this week. So the first story, there's two. One is an official news story from Marvel and the other is a rumor. And then we have some Harry Potter coverage. But anyway, the first official story is that while they didn't announce it at Comic-Con, Marvel has said that they're not going to do Infinity War as a two-parter anymore. They're going to do Avengers Infinity War will be the next big crossover movie, although they're all crossover movies at this point. But then the next Avengers movie is currently Untitled Avengers. And I think that that's obviously going to be the fallout from Avengers Infinity War. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. I had liked the idea of a two-parter Avengers movie. Maybe they didn't have to come out a year difference. Maybe they could have come out a little closer together. But I think that one of the, we've talked, last week about risk-taking being one of the few criticisms leveled at the MCU. And I would say the other is repercussions. And one of the things that I liked and disliked the most about Civil War was the potential for ongoing repercussions. Although, S.H.I.E.L.D. being disbanded after Winter Soldier has kind of stuck. But I liked the potential for repercussions coming out of Civil War with this divide between Tony and Steve. But one of my problems with the movie is that they seemed like maybe they had done away with it with the letter at the end of the movie, and we have to wait and see whether or not that's enough for Tony. I don't think it should be enough. The power of an apology letter, right? I'm sorry, Bucky killed your parents and I didn't tell you about it. So we'll see. We'll see how that relationship moves forward. But I think that repercussions is a big one. And so I had liked the idea of, having a two-part movie to really dive into the story and, leave an open-ended cliffhanger at the end of the first Avengers Infinity War. The other thing is that Infinity War, if they're going, they really broke, Marvel for a long time has been very strong in terms of following continuity from the comics. But that's a game plan they no longer seem to be beholden to because of the copious changes made to Civil War. So if they're going to follow the comic at all, Infinity War, there are so many pieces that need still to be put in place. Now, there are a number of movies still to come that could put those pieces into place. For instance, Thor Ragnarok, which they hinted at with that mockumentary at Comic-Con that Thanos is involved. They are working towards the Infinity Gauntlet in a very humorous way. My favorite was they had talked about Thanos in that, and they said the three things about him was that he's purple, he has a magic glove, and he doesn't like to stand up because he's always sitting on a throne. And I thought that was pretty funny. So anyway, that could put some pieces into place, and also so could Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But Guardians of the Galaxy 2 seems to have a lot of ground to cover itself with everything that it's trying to do. That team is the closest to Thanos of all the MCU films, but still they have to do a lot with Star-Lord's parentage. They have their own agenda. Although they do have Elizabeth Debicki is playing a character who's like the female version of Adam Warlock, so it'll be interesting to see if she's just like her existence is a hint that Adam Warlock exists, or they've just decided to go with the female version of Adam Warlock, who is so pivotal to the Infinity War storyline. But again, they're not beholden to that if they don't want to be. So, I think that if Infinity War is coming and it's just one movie, I think that it's going to be a far cry from the comic. Although, as I said, I couldn't get through the comic, and I love comics, so I don't know how much I would want to replicate that anyway. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. Light news day, but I think that, the event, changing up the Avengers movie lineup, I think is interesting. But I think, not revealing the title of that second Avengers film, that would have been the real headline. All right, so anyway, the second story of the day, as I said, is a rumor. And that is that Scarlett Johansson is apparently in Atlanta where they're filming Spider-Man Homecoming. And the rumor is that Black Widow will make an appearance in that movie. Iron Man 3, one of the chief complaints about that film is that these things would happen, to the President of the United States. He'd be abducted, but none of the other Avengers would show up, right? So I think that Kevin Feige, who I think really has his ear to the ground, very cleverly so, probably doesn't want that to be a criticism that's fair again. So not only is Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. certainly confirmed officially for Spider-Man Homecoming, but of course some other Avengers are going to show up. Just like many of us think that Captain America will probably show up in the Black Panther film, and it makes sense because these characters, they're done with their three. Black Widow hasn't even gotten a trilogy; she hasn't even started one. But there are no more Captain America movies. One would think maybe no more Iron Man movies. Robert Downey Jr. said maybe he'd do a 4. But these characters need to keep showing up so they stay in the public consciousness as you get ready for Avengers Infinity War. So I think there's a very good chance that Captain America will show up in Black Panther. We have Iron Man already showing up in Spider-Man Homecoming, and so then you need to get Black Widow on the board, particularly because she doesn't have her own movies, and so they want to and Scarlett Johansson is very popular, and they want to make sure that they keep her fan base going. They don't want to put that character on the bench, which I think is understandable. We'll see what Brie Larson's able to do with Captain Marvel. You have Evangeline Lilly getting moved up to a co-starring role in the Ant-Man sequel. Black Widow is really, she was number 1 with the MCU. She brought a lot of female fans into the franchise, and she really scored a home run for Marvel as that character. I think Joss Whedon both helped and did some damage to the character. The whole Hulk romance, some of the things that he decided, some reveals in Age of Ultron. I think she's still recovering from that a little bit. But as I said, when I saw Civil War, there were some women in the audience, and they really reacted the most to Black Widow's fight sequences, which was very cool. A little distracting, but also very cool. So I think it makes sense to bring Black Widow in. And I would like, she was a wonderful addition to the Captain America movies. They were almost to some degree her films as well. Particularly Winter Soldier. So I think, Scarlett Johansson has proven that she can be a good soldier, right, as a supporting character. And I think it would be great to see her show up for an action sequence with Spider-Man. We'll see what they decide to do. Although she and Tony weren't on such good terms at the end of Civil War. So I'd be curious to see what their interactions perhaps would be in Spider-Man Homecoming. We'll see. But I think it's a good idea. And I think that anything to show that Scarlett Johansson is still on good terms with Kevin Feige is a plus for everyone. Because they won't make that movie. They keep saying, Kevin Feige keeps saying, oh, we're thinking about it, or it's in development, but where is it? There's no Black Widow movie. It's not on the horizon. It's not dated. It doesn't have anybody assigned to it. And I think that at least they're gonna keep. It's good to see that she is still somewhat of a priority for the studio. So that's the second story of the day. Now the third story of the day is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which of course has been playing on London's West End for a while now, but it officially opened over the weekend. And also the book went on sale. The published play, the script, that J.K. Rowling herself did not write, but she did the story for it. And so it was a big deal. It's gotten rave reviews. The book, the play, it's a big deal, right? And I liked a lot of the tweets that went out when people went to, it was nice to see Harry Potter parties again, when the book comes out at midnight. And Darren Criss, who rose to fame doing Harry Potter videos on YouTube and then went on to Glee, he had a funny tweet that I thought was fantastic where he said, "This is the first Harry Potter book I've ever bought with my own money instead of my parents, hashtag adult life with a Y, life with a Y." I thought that was cute. I was like, that's a good one, Darren Criss. But anyway, why we're talking about it today, not only was it nice to see Harry Potter in the news, but J.K. Rowling had said at the premiere over the weekend that she's not going to do it. She thinks Harry's done. But of course, the wizarding world is not done. Warner Brothers has invested a serious amount of money into it, not only with theme park expansions that are finally making them competitive with Disney, but also, of course, they have the trilogy Fantastic Beasts coming, which is only getting started. So I think Harry's story is done, and probably that of his children, because how could you tell the story of Harry's children without touching upon Harry? And of course, the Cursed Child is, really kind of, tells what's happened to the adult Harry Potter and his kids. But I think that with Wizarding World, I'd be curious to see how the franchise moves forward. And so I wanted to ask those of you who are big Potter fans and those of you who aren't, what you think the potential future for this Wizarding World franchise could be. I'm not feeling Newt Scamander, and I feel that Newt Scamander maybe was not the best choice for Fantastic Beasts. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised and this will be a huge hit, but I think that not only was Newt Scamander a tough choice, but I think casting Eddie Redmayne maybe wasn't the best idea, because, we'll see how this works out, because, Alicia Vikander is the new Lara Croft, Brie Larson is the new Captain Marvel. Just, they're going safe with Oscar winners to kind of like secure the critics' situation, but maybe they're hurting themselves when it comes to audiences. Maybe, these none of these actors are big draws at the box office. And you've seen that reflected in the lack of attention for any of the Fantastic Beasts trailers. It's just, I try and cover them. They just, they really just do not move the needle in terms of, chatter online. And that's very troubling. So I don't know if they would really, if moving forward is possible with Newt Scamander. They've committed to him for 2 more movies. J.K. Rowling having written the first screenplay and saying she's already written the second. I still believe that Dumbledore is the key to keeping this franchise alive. But it would be very tricky because, of course, he's a gay character, and that would be a huge step forward for representation of the LGBT community in franchise work. But at the same time, some people might push against it for that reason. We'll see. I still believe that Poe Dameron is gay, and that is a big surprise that's coming everyone's way. So once again, we'll see if Star Wars can pave the way. But Dumbledore, beloved character, huge, intense fan base, and already has a relationship with the fans. And he would be a younger character because, of course, he's unfortunately passed away in the current time, in the current timeline of Harry Potter. But to visit his earlier days, I think, I still feel there's a chance he could show up in Fantastic Beasts, and if he does, I think it's a mistake not to play that up. But maybe they should consider, expanding his role in the Fantastic Beasts sequels to complete the trilogy. But I think that he would be the best choice to go forward to keep this thing going. But I'm just not quite sure how viable the Wizarding world is long term, and we'll see. It's very hard to take a franchise and that is very focused on a specific set of characters and keep it going when you move away from those characters. It's difficult, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But The Cursed Child is doing quite well. It's sold out, but 250,000 more tickets are going on sale August 4th. If you happen to be able to get yourself to the UK, you might want to try and get your hands on some of those. So anyway, those are the 3 stories for the day, and the viewer question comes from Stars Rain 22. And Stars Rain 22 says, "Hi Grace, hope you are well. My question is, how important is it for directors to cast non-actor celebrities with huge followings and prominent roles? A recent example for this being Cara Delevingne as the Enchantress in the DC Universe, or Naomi Campbell as Camilla on Empire. I've recently been thinking about this because it seems to be happening more frequently. Do you think that directors take the overall quality of the movie into account, or just that it will generate more box office numbers or ratings, in the case of Empire? Thank you, Millie from the UK. Millie, have you seen The Cursed Child? Any plans to do so? That's a great question. And I think, with Cara Delevingne, though, Cara Delevingne is taking her social media following and trying to turn it into an acting career. Because she, of course, was also in Paper Towns. She's in the upcoming Valerian for Luc Besson. She's trying to be a legitimate actress. Whereas Naomi Campbell is not a legitimate actress, right, to some degree. Although maybe Naomi Campbell feels differently, but I think there's a difference between the two. I think Cara Delevingne, the jury isn't, in on her quite yet. The jury's still out. That's the saying. The jury's still out on Cara Delevingne. I think she's actually a pretty good actress, but we'll see if she's able to connect with audiences. That's a really big part of being a successful actor in a commercial space. But that's the big key. Well, first of all, I want to say, I guess I'll continue my train of thought. Connect with audiences, right? And so sometimes the best actors are just unable to forge that relationship with the movie-going audience, the ticket buyers, or the people who tune in on television. And sometimes there are people who aren't particularly good actors who are able to forge that relationship, particularly now with social media. So sometimes that relationship with the audience is more important than the quality of work, right? Especially if you can put them into a secondary role where maybe you can hide the lack of quality if necessary, or not too much is asked of that individual in terms of what they have to deliver for the product. Now, you said director, Millie. Oftentimes, it's not the director's decision that this is done. It's often the producers, because the producers are looking at the bottom line and they're like, hey, you know what? Well, you want this to be the best product possible. I'm looking for another season. I'm looking to make headlines. So that's something the producer is very concerned about. Now, sometimes the director has to agree. Sometimes the director doesn't have to agree. The producer says, Naomi Campbell's going to be on Empire. Deal with it. And on television, it's very different because they have different directors. There's no directorial voice on a TV show. There are showrunners, and they're in charge of, the overall feel of the show. But I think I think that that's the first thing. It's producers, not directors, and then also, relationships sometimes over quality. But I think that, there's such a crowded space these days. It's so hard to get eyeballs because there's just not only so many places to watch content, but therefore so much content that anything that can get eyeballs or attention or headlines for a product or a show is extremely important. So if you have a strong social media following, you become that more valuable to the property. For instance, I've also heard, from some of my contacts in the red carpet biz, that social media people are being invited to red carpets to take photos and to tweet about it or to Instagram about it because they just have so many followers. But it's very frustrating to the people who run the red carpet, because often those people are more interested in covering themselves being on the red carpet than interviewing the celebrities, and it just creates a weird space. And also that's a new experience for a lot of the actors. They're not used to that kind of interaction. Some celebrities are better than others. For instance, Dwayne Johnson has really taken to social media to the point that he just launched his own YouTube channel recently, right? And Kevin Hart's very good at it, for example. But that doesn't always mean, that's not always going to translate to box office dollars either, because we all recall that, Central Intelligence struggled out of the gate. Had a very nice hold weekend to weekend as people discovered it. But, Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart, for all their social media following, weren't able to deliver a huge opening weekend, despite, getting tons of coverage for the film. But, that's why I think you see actors working so hard to develop social media, because I think that's going to help them too. Someone like Dwayne Johnson, make no mistake, I think a lot of the opportunities he's getting today are not only because of San Andreas doing so well at the box office, but because of his increased social media footprint. It's so strong that people are, I'm sure, like, well, not only does Dwayne Johnson have fans, but he can get so much free publicity for our movie. And he's happy to do it. He wants to do it. That's a big part of who he is these days. So I think the big takeaway here is that social media is hugely important, and that especially in a space that's so competitive as entertainment these days. So expect to see more of this. Lady Gaga, I think, on American Horror Story, although she ended up winning a Golden Globe, is another good example of this. And you're going to see more. In the biz, it's called stunt casting. And in the movie business or entertainment business, they call it stunt casting. It's been around for a long time. The circumstances change. And I think that social media is now what's directly influencing it. And I think in the cases that you mentioned, Millie, I think it turned out pretty darn well for everybody involved. So I think as long as, I think it's a fine line, it's a tricky dance, but if you can get a social media star into your property and you can find the right role for them where you're not too much is asked of them, and maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised and they're good at it, everybody benefits. All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please write down below today's top 3 stories and that viewer question. What's your favorite recent stunt casting, or does it really bother you? And then, of course, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.